Hello and welcome to This is Politics. My name is Justice Malala. I'm with Mondli Makhanya as usual, and we're going to talk today. Mondli, you want to talk about the Khampepe Commission, which is ongoing. And we had a fantastic showing this week by the leadership of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa, which we like to refer to as the IEC, about election readiness and registration weekend coming up. And all sorts of other things. Mondli, do you want to start on the Khampepe Commission?
Yeah, it's a long and sad and tragic tale of betrayal, as people call it, as the families of the victims of apartheid atrocities call it. The Khampepe Commission is looking at allegations of political interference in the prosecution, non-prosecution or delayed prosecution of apartheid-era cases that were referred for further investigation and possible action by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Let me understand this. Help me with this story, because as you said, we discussed it. So let's take the Minister of Human Settlements in South Africa, the former Justice Minister in South Africa. Her sister leaves the country to go and fight against apartheid. Am I right?
Correct.
She comes back to fight against apartheid, gets arrested by the apartheid cops. She is a hero of our struggle, okay? She's come to fight to liberate you, me, other people in this country. She gets arrested. She gets tortured. She gets tortured horrifically. Okay?
Yes.
And she is tortured. People don't understand this. These are men who have been taught how to inflict pain. They inflict pain on you. Not for a week, not for 2 weeks, for a month, for more than a month. And they kill you in the process. And they kill you, and you're cold and you're naked, and you're forced to put a plastic bag around your genitals because you're being tortured by these people. When time comes, the ANC and the liberation movements, other liberation movements say, okay, we don't seek revenge. We want you to just say, I, Mondli Makhanya, I, Peter Grunewald, or whatever your name is, or I, Justice Malala. During apartheid, I tortured people, and you come forward and say, I'm sorry, your daughter is buried in this place on our farm where we killed people, Flag Plus, or whichever place it may be, and her remains are there, and you don't even have to say sorry. You just have to say, we did it, this is how we did it, and this is where you find the remains of your relative. These families don't want revenge for that. They just want to know. But this government, am I understanding this right?
Yes, they do not want revenge. They want to know the full truth.
Yes.
But they also want justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the perpetrators don't step forward.
Yes.
And so they get a chance. Bishop Tutu cries and says, please come. The Amnesty wing of the TRC says, please come. And Alex Brain says, please come. Everyone says, please just come and just tell us. And if the Amnesty Commission will give you amnesty or will say, no, you didn't tell everything. They don't come forward.
And show contrition, genuine contrition.
Show genuine contrition. They don't come forward. Now, this is the bit. So then, in many instances, other people know that these people did this, and there is some evidence and so forth. So take the story forward for me. What is this Khampepe Commission looking into?
What then happens is that people apply for amnesty, and some are granted amnesty, some are not granted amnesty because perhaps they lied. They lied, and some basically the crimes do not justify forgiveness because you can't prove that there was a political
Yes.
that you were following political orders, because some of those crimes were just pure sadism. And then so the TRC, via the Amnesty Committee of the TRC, basically the TRC recommends that there be some prosecutions, and those prosecutions should take place. And a file is handed over to the authorities, the SAPS and the NPA, that there must be further investigations and prosecutions. However, it appears that there's a secret deal is made. There are secret talks between some leaders of the ANC, the leadership of the ANC, and the leadership of the security of the erstwhile security forces and the erstwhile National Party. And in those talks, we don't know the exact content of those talks, but essentially there's a deal reached that the prosecutions of those apartheid-era tormentors and perpetrators will not go ahead. And it appears that some people believe that the deal entailed that these people had some information about some ANC people that could embarrass some ANC people, but some people say, like some people in the ANC justify it on the basis that those would have just opened the wounds that the TRC was supposed to heal, and the wounds that Mandela, and in the spirit of Mandela's reconciliation messaging, that let's not proceed with these. But the deal is secret. The TRC, it was not in keeping with the TRC was a process that had been basically put in place during the constitutional negotiations. It had to take place, and nothing outside of that. Everything had to be transparent. Nothing outside of that was to take place. So in terms of the secret deal, it appears that the prosecutions did not, there was political interference stopping the prosecutions of these people. Now, that interference was unconstitutional and unlawful. We are now more than 20 years since the TRC ended. And we're here, we have these people crying for justice. And now here's the twist. These people have been crying through activism, doing litigation, and that was what eventually forced the Khampepe Commission. The Khampepe Commission is now looking into the extent of this political interference, the veracity of it, and the extent of it. And there are people, when we speak about veracity, there are people as high up as the former NPA director, Vusi Pikoli, who says he was interfered with. And there are some senior people who were at the NPA who also talk about the fact that we were pushing ahead, and there was interference from cabinet level, and there was also interference from as powerful a person as Jackie Selebi, the former police commissioner, whose police were supposed to be investigating this. And so we are now at this point. The Campepe Commission is looking at it. Now, the interesting thing here is that the people who are trying to frustrate the Campepe Commission, the people who are trying to sabotage the Campepe Commission include two former presidents of the ANC, two former presidents of the Republic of South Africa. The names of Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma are the people who are now in court trying to make sure that the Campepe Commission does not fulfill its objectives. And that raises very serious questions.
Now, President Ramaphosa said over the past few days that he, through his spokesperson, that he had asked Judge Sisi Khampepe to recuse herself from this process. What do you make of that? What was that all about? I think through the Minister of Justice, he had said, you know what, do not muddy the waters. If they don't want you, then...
Not just through the spokesperson, through court papers. Yes. Yeah, it's there in black and white. So what's President Cyril Ramaphosa, who, by the way, appointed the commission, Ramaphosa established this commission, Ramaphosa appointed Justice Sisi Khampepe, retired Justice Sisi Khampepe, to this to head the commission. President Cyril Ramaphosa now says that actually what he now agrees with President Mbeki, former President Mbeki and former President Zuma, that she should recuse herself. And on their grounds are very spurious. And the grounds for her recusal, for their claiming that she should recuse herself, are that she served on the Amnesty Committee of the TRC, which is neither here nor there. I mean,
if you tell a lawyer that, no, you appeared there, you're
exactly
undermining the idea of...
This person has been a judge forever. The person has even served as acting Chief Justice.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. And now President Cyril Ramaphosa now says he's not going to oppose the applications, the court applications of these two former presidents, because he says if he had known that she had sat on the Amnesty Committee of the TRC, he would not have made her the chair of this. I mean...
Cyril Ramaphosa was the Secretary General of the ANC in the 1990s. When this process started, he was intimately involved in who would be there. He probably negotiated some of the people who were sitting as commissioners, as Amnesty Committee members. It's ridiculous.
And he would have been involved in putting together the ANC's submission to the TRC. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this Cyril Ramaphosa, fast forward, was also the President of the Republic when Sisi Khampepe was made the acting Chief Justice twice.
Yes.
Yeah. When former Chief Justice Mogoeng decided to take long leave towards the end of his tenure, she acted as the Chief Justice. And then again, when Justice Zondo was made Chief Justice, but he was still finishing off the State Capture Commission, Justice Sisi Khampepe was made Chief Justice again. Now, in order for Ramaphosa to have appointed this person acting Chief Justice, he would have had to know who is this person.
Yes.
And
what does her CV look like?
And that CV is there. All you need to do is go to your laptop and click.
You just have to Google twice, and you'll find that
this is who she was.
So,
because on that question, I mean, like, what do you call that? I mean, it's either a lie or it's dereliction of duty on his part.
Total dereliction of duty. I mean, it's the dereliction of duty. Cyril Ramaphosa is not a man who would not know that Justice Malala did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before acting. That is why many of us have criticized him for taking too long, considering that he's, in Setswana they say, he's cogitating, as the bombastic people like to say. There is no way he did not know. Even I knew. I think all of us who were around at that time,
the thing was televised.
It was televised. we all, those first few days, and then the amnesty hearings and so on, we all listened. Whether it was, there were so many people. There are so many working judges and former judges who went through that process. She's not the only one. So this idea is so...
And then you fast forward when she's nominated for the judiciary, she goes through various interviews, by the way. And in those interviews, you have to say what you did.
Yes.
It's public record.
Imagine appearing before the Judicial Services Commission. How many times was that discussed, for example?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be so easy for any junior researcher in the presidency to just say, what did she say about amnesty? What did she say on these issues? I'm sure they were canvassed extensively.
Exactly. So now there is a theory, Justice. Before we wrap this issue, I don't know what your thoughts are, but there is this theory that perhaps there's an intention to this commission is supposed to wrap up in July. That there is an intention to torpedo whatever its findings are going to be, and on the basis that if they succeed in getting her accused, it has to then start from scratch because it's been sitting already. Now, if this person were to recuse herself now, what does it render the commission?
Yes.
Yeah, it's mute. So, and you know what? It's a very sensitive year for the ANC. There is likely to be a local government election. We've spoken about this a million times. It keeps coming up. I mean, like, will the ANC want that mud on its face before it goes to face its people in the local government election campaign? Another question.
Wow. Wow, Mondli. I mean, there are two things. The first one is you spoke about the two presidents, Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki. And it's a gut punch that two people who were exiled, who had relatives, comrades, friends die in foreign capitals. To this day, we don't know what happened to Dalcy September, what happened to Chris Hani, what happened to so many of their comrades, close comrades. Okay, you'd think that these two, of all people, that these leading lights of the liberation movement would want, again, not revenge, they would want justice for those families, for those children, for those relatives. So this is the first betrayal. You used the word betrayal at the beginning, and I think it's so powerful. But this second one is basically now dirty political shenanigans. And they're dirty because if you make a football of your heroes, of your comrades, and their deaths and their torture in police cells, whether you go back to the 1970s and people being murdered and killed and so forth, or you go to the Galata case in the 1980s, the Craddock 4, or you go to Rick Turner in the 1970s, you go to all these cases, you speak about the Similani family and their sister. It is extraordinary how far your moral and ethical compass can travel in 32 years. That we now sitting here, that you and I are sitting here contemplating that the movement of the people could now want to torpedo this commission of inquiry simply to save its own skin. And so it doesn't matter about the pain and heartbreak of those families.
And the truth.
And the truth. And the truth. Absolutely.
Yes. And I think, on that note, I think while we are talking about the fortunes of the ANC in this election, in this local government election, where it is expected that, it's been said this is going to be the most important local government election ever because of what happened in 2024 in the general election. So we saw yesterday the IEC giving a state of readiness and telling us about the plans for this coming election and saying that, look, in June, there's going to be 2 registration days in order to enable people those who are not registered to register, and those who are in the wrong place to correct their residential addresses. So it seems we are now properly in election season.
Yeah. Both topics we've touched on today, Mondli, are so interesting. They're about the shutting down of attempts at justice, at giving it to people and at entrenching it.
Yeah.
Because every mother of someone killed in political violence wants that PKTT to work. And then same thing with the Khampepe Commission and the Amnesty Committee of the TRC.
Yeah. I want us, when we get to the end of this show, to count the number of times that you have said the word justice during the course of this show.
I'm going to leave it to Duncan to find that. But yeah, I mean, it's quite something that both topics are about that and about who we are really. What did we say? That we said people will be at the center of this democracy back in 1994. I think that was Mandela's words on May 10 at his first State of the Nation, to put people at the center of this. And both political decisions that we've discussed are about not people putting people at the center. They are about putting selfish political interests at the center of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Selfish political considerations instead of what is in the interests of the Republic and what is in the interests of the people of the Republic and what is in the interests particularly of the poor people of this Republic who should be the people that we want this democracy to benefit the most.
Mondli, can I challenge you? This is the last thing, we have to stop now. But can I challenge you on the Campepe Commission? If this political tricks, if that commission actually is torpedoed, what does it say? What does it mean for this country, for justice, what does it mean?
There is after every tragic period in a society, whether it was the slave trade, or whether it was the Holocaust, whether it was the genocide in Rwanda, whether it was apartheid in South Africa, we say never and never again. And remember, those were Mandela's words at his inauguration. And so, we're going through, we're still a society that's being built. We're not complete yet. Things can still go wrong. We'll never go back to apartheid. But we've seen, for instance, we went through a Zuma period, and we tell ourselves never again. And we had the July 2021 riots, and we say never again. We're at Marikana, we say never again. We don't want to go back to a society. We don't want any leader or any political party or any class of people ever to commit those crimes. And successfully prosecuting the apartheid crimes is very important, should be a very important marker that says that was wrong. Nobody should ever be able to do such things. And that if we do not get to the bottom of this, unfortunately, the deterrent for another government, whether it's in 50 years' time, whether it's in 100 years' time, it does not matter. But this South Africa should say we will never again be that. That thing should be scrubbed from the soul of this good republic.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess that's it. Mondli Makhanya, it's always such an education speaking to you, and
As is speaking to you, Justice.
Thank you, Mondli. I know. Mondli, we get comments. We get so many comments every day, and I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's sending us all these wonderful, wonderful comments. Mondli and I will be engaging, and we're going to take a segment of the show next week or the week after to just deal with some of the questions that have come from you, questions that look at the political economy, at all the other issues that we've addressed and continue to address. Duncan wants us to please, Mondli, talk about boots on the ground in El Dorado Park and other townships which have been troubled for a very long time. And we should find time for that. To everyone who's been with us, thank you so much for always watching and listening. Please don't forget to visit us on This Is Politics SA on YouTube. Follow us on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, and Instagram and every other social media platform, TikTok, Facebook, that you subscribe to. And please encourage your relatives to click on that bell on your screen to subscribe to This Is Politics. Most importantly, don't forget to tell everyone about this wonderful baby that we call This Is Politics. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.